everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys I'm going to be profiling for you my Timelord deck. Now, I've seen a lot of different people teching in Timelords recently, and I wanted to build the deck, you know, a Timelord deck just for fun. I mean, I love the 5Ds era, and they were kind of cool in the 5Ds era. But I mainly just wanted to build it because it seemed like it could be a lot of fun if I could build a deck based around the Timelords. Like I said, I'd seen a lot of people teching Timelords into different decks here and there, but not building a deck around the Timelords themselves, specifically. So that's what I tried to do in this deck. Now the deck I've been still testing out, I'm still working on some things, but it's been working out fairly well. As we head into the new era of link summoning, and it actually works in link format fairly well. So I'll get into the deck profile, but it does work in link format, just to let you guys know. So let's go start it off now. I'm gonna mess up some of these Timelords, and I'm probably gonna have to read over them because I still haven't memorized all their effects. So first we have Zaphion, the Timelord. Now Zaphion's very, very good right now, especially in the meta. This is a card that you will see people tech into the meta if they're playing Timelords. But Zaphion's effect is at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, shuffle all spell and trap cards your opponent control into the deck. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to draw one card. So pretty much all the Timelords, once they use their effects, they pretty much shuffle back into the deck at some point in time. But Zaphion deals with spells and traps, which is really nice, especially if you're playing against Zoo. You know, instead of destroying it, you can just be like, okay, go back to the deck. So Zaphion's very good, definitely a good 3 of. Then we run Meteion, which is pretty good on his own right. He's one of the older Timelords and works very well in the deck. So Meteion, I'll read to you guys. Instead of reading this entire wall of text, I'll just read you his main effect we care about. At the end of the battle phase, if this card attacks or was attacked, return as many monsters on the field, and that includes your own monsters, so please do keep that in mind, as possible, to the hand other than this card. And if you do, inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card returned. During your standby phase, shuffle this card into the deck. Now, so this is non-targeting removal if they have a big monster you can't get over. But like I said, do keep in mind that includes your own monsters. So say, because we do run pendulums in the deck, if you guys don't know, this is like a pendulum Timelord deck. You do run the gateways, the Supreme King and Infinity, and Zero Supreme King 0. So if you do pendulum a whole bunch, remember to attack with this one last usually, because that way you can get all your other Timelords effects off and then use this effect. And you can even burn, if you pendulum summon enough monsters, you can actually burn your opponent to death with his effect. So there's different ways you can win with this card. It's very good. Then we got Kamon, the Timelord. He's another good one. Personally, I feel like Zaphion and these two over here, Zaphion and Meteion, are the best ones, but these other ones do come in handy fairly well. So Kamon, his effect is, at the end of the battle phase, if this card battles, shuffle one card your opponent controls into the deck. And if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Neither player takes damage. So pretty much the other stipulations are normal. So this can get problematic things away from you. So I do like him as a 3 of. He's very useful. Then we run 3 Lazion, the Timelord. And this guy's kind of a burn type of card, especially he's a fire type. But yeah, let me read him quickly to you guys. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, shuffle all cards from your opponent's graveyard into the deck. Once per turn, if your opponent draws a card, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So that's pretty good. Also, he goes back to the deck, I believe, when it goes back to your turn. So he'll stay on the field for, if you summoned him on your turn, and then you attack with him, and then when it comes back to your turn, he'll go back to the deck, but he will stay on the field for your opponent's turn, if I remember correctly. That way, he can do that 1,000 burn damage if they draw. And against certain decks, that can be a problem, but he's very useful, especially against decks that are very graveyard-oriented. You just go with this guy and shuffle the graveyard back. Like if you're playing against Share Nui zombies or whatever, just go like, oh, put all of that back in the deck. And they're like, oh, it sucks. Believe me, I know. Then we have to Sadion, the Time Lord. I hope I'm pronouncing these names properly here. Sadion is, I would say, for this Time Lord build, using these type of effects, he's the worst. But then again, I have found some use for him to some degree, so I do run him as a 2-of, but I'll read them to you. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled and your life points are less than 4,000, your life points become 4,000. Once per turn, during your standby phase, shuffle this card into the deck. Now, the reason I say this card is somewhat useful in the deck is you'll be taking hits from this deck. You know, you'll be losing life points like normal, but it makes the solemn cards a little bit better. So if you got yourself below 4,000 life points by activating solemn cards, you can go get yourself back to 4,000 life points, which is helpful to some degree. But still, I don't think he's worth more than running 2-of. You could run 1-of, but I like 2-of in the deck. He does come in handy. So that's all the Time Lords except that have effects that have 0 attack, and they get effects when they attack, for the most part. Now let's go into Time Maiden, which is your Stratos-esque card. It's a really good card, honestly, I think. Right now they're very cheap, so if you want to build this deck is very cheap to build. But let's read over Time Maiden for you guys if you don't know what she does. She's very, very good in this deck. And multi-versatile, as I'll show you later. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summoning of a Time Lord monster. So that's one good effect. You can tribute this card, add 1 Time Lord monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand. Alright? You can banish this card from the graveyard, special summon 1 Time Lord monster with 0 attack from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can't special summon other monsters the turn you activate this effect. So it has a lot of good effects. Some basic first turn plays I will do in this deck. I'll show you in a minute, but she's really good in the deck. Especially for the Time Lord engine, you need to run 3 of her. So let's go on to the Pendulum monsters, the Supreme King monsters. So, Supreme King Dragon, Dark Worm, I think that's how you pronounce it, Dark Worm, is pretty much a Stratos for your gate cards, your pendulum monsters that you want to pendulum with. Your gates, your Supreme King Infinity, and your 0. Alright, so we don't, I've never in this deck optimally used his pendulum effect. We just care about the monster effect, which I'll read to you very quickly. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Supreme King Gate monster from your deck to your hand. And the reason, if you're wondering why I run Foolish Burial in the deck, it's because of this second card effect, as well as for Time Maiden's effect as well, which I'll talk about more when I get to Foolish. But you can special summon this card if you can only, it says that if this card is in your graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your graveyard if you have no other monsters on the field. Okay, how does that play into this deck's idea? Alright, well, say that you normal summon this card first turn, alright? And then you got one of the gate pieces and maybe you have the other one, and then next turn you can go off using your pendulum summon for all your Time Lords. Or say you're just missing that one piece for your gate and it's a first turn play. Well, you can Foolish Burial this to the graveyard, alright? So it goes in the graveyard. You have no monsters on your field now. You bring them back. You get the search for one of your gate pieces. So 0 or Infinity. And now you have your complete thing. So I like that effect with Foolish, that he can revive himself from the graveyard if you have no monsters on the field. And the fact that all your Time Lords are going to be shuffling back to the deck usually means you're going to have an open board. And it's one of the reasons why we run things I'll get to later here, like Drowning Meal Force, because you're going to have yourself wide open for your opponent. So it's good to run cards that can help lead your opponent into a trap, or just you can use different ways. Like this card works well with that because you can reborn it, get a search off, do things of that nature. So definitely a good card as a 3 of. Sorry about that, but once you play the deck, you understand why he's actually very useful in the deck for searching out your pieces. But he searches out your gate pieces to help set up your Time Lord plays. Then we run 0, 3, 0, and 3 Infinity. Okay, Now, one thing I also want to mention to you guys as a helicopter goes overhead is the fact that each of the gates, so 0 and infinity, are level 7. So if you are wondering why I am running an extra deck of level 7 Exceed monsters and level 4, level 4s are for Supreme King Dewalk, and level 7s are for the gates. So if you special summon 2 gates from your hand, then you can go into a level 7 Exceed play. So that's the reason why. If you were wondering, okay? I know people are going to ask that. But pretty much you can't pendulum summon if you already have a monster on the field, if you guys know about this. But the fact that you keep shuffling your Time Lords back into the deck is perfectly fine. And if you can search out your Time Lords or set up plays with, you know, Time Maiden, you can slowly start to do things and just pendulum summon Time Lords, and they shuffle back into your deck, and then you can keep going off as you draw more Time Lords. And the fact that Time Maiden helps you search specific Time Lords you need in maybe a specific matchup. Like I said, if you run against Sharon or your zombies, you go for, you know, what's his name? That fire one I was telling you about earlier. Him, Lazion. So you can just, it depends how you're playing, you know, what decks you're playing against. Just search them out, do what you need to do, pendulum summon, and slowly nickel and dime your way to a victory. That's pretty much how this deck works. Find your opponent's weakness, exploit it, and then nickel and dime them to a victory. Next we run 1 Max C. Max C is amazing in this deck. If Max C got banned on the upcoming ban list, guys, run something else you want to. It doesn't matter. Run a Dark Hole, whatever the case may be. Just run something else. But Max C is so good. Then Double Twin Twister. Yes, I know we have Zaphion. But there's other things where I don't know where she's at right now, but Zaphion you could run instead, the blue girl, because you're running Twin Twister, you're gonna be like, well, maybe you don't need this. Well, it's still useful, all right? And you can take it out if you're side decking for a match. So if, say, you're going against a True Draco player or a Zodiac player, well, then you can put Cosmic Cyclone in this deck, and that will even help out with, you know, more of the green guy, that if your life points are below 4,000, you can bump him up to 4,000. So, depending upon your matchups, you can switch this out for Cosmic Cyclone, but it's just up to you. It really is. Or you can put Pod of Cupidity in the deck. I know that's the old name, but yeah, you know what I mean. Pod of Desires. You could take these out for 2 Pod of Desires, by the way, but I only own 1, so that's why I'm going with removal. I mean, I'm not taking this in the meta by any means, but if you want to take this to locals and you're playing against meta, you could run maybe another Pod of Desires, but I'm running 1 at the moment because I only own 1. So 1 Desires and 1 Upstart Goblin. I would definitely run the Upstart Goblin. It just helps you draw. And Desires, you're going to say to yourself, Desires is a bad card in this deck. It doesn't work out well. Try it as a one of, please, before you start hating on it. And it works very well in this build of the deck. Once you get your pieces, once you get what you need, you don't care. You don't need like 15 Time Lords in your hand, or 7 Time Lords in your hand and nothing to do. Pod of Desires, if you play it properly, it works amazing in this deck, and I'm not lying. So 1 Desires, 1 Upstart Goblin. Foolish Burial. This is for sending your Time Maiden to the graveyard to get, you know, her effects engraved that she can use. And also send your Dewalk, Supreme King Dragon. Then we got 1 for 1. This is for your Time Maiden specifically and nothing else. Time Maiden. Get her out on the field. Your Regeki for clearing the board. For your traps, I run 3 Drowning Mirror Force. Now the reason we're running Drowning Mirror Force is, like I said, you will find yourself, maybe after pendulum summoning Time Lords, that you're in a situation where your field is open, or you're trying to go first turn and trying to get your field to be set it up for maybe a pendulum summon. And you're going to find yourself with an open field and be wondering, this is not a good situation. Drowning Mirror Force is your best friend. People don't expect it, and when it happens, it's amazing. And it's a surprise factor, really, and it makes them, wonder about what your back row is when you're attacking. I mean, I've bluffed with my back row before, and people think it's a Drowning Mirror Force, literally. because they've seen me play it before in the deck. And it's really good. And you can bait your opponent to attacking you with an open field if they don't know you run Drowning Mirror Force yet. So it's a lot of mind games you can play, and it works perfectly well in the deck because you'll find yourself with open fields sometimes. So I would say 90 to maybe 88% of the time, this card will be live, especially once you go off. Then we run your Solemn Strikes and your Warning for more trap lineup. Pretty straightforward, good cards. If Strike gets hit down to 1, run 1 Strike and then figure out some other good traps like Lost Wind to run or whatever. You know, there's other good traps out there you can run. But it just really works well in this deck because the fact of the matter is, like I said earlier, you have the green guy who can give you back life points. So, yeah, that's pretty nice. And he really helps if you're in the grind game too, I should mention. So, we got our Skyla token, or my Link Marker token. So, we got your Utopia. I'm very tired, I just woke up. You got your Utopia package, it's still useful. You're not going to really use the extra Monster Zone unless you're going for like Dwark. And then if you normal summon another Dwark, then you can go for your level 4s. So, a lot of the time it'll be open. Then we got your Castell, your Tornado Dragon, your Dagusto Emerald, your number 82 Heartland Drago, which can go for a game because you do have Pendulum Monsters, which are magic cards, even if they're down here nowadays. Your 1 Giant Hand, your number 70 Malevolent Sins, your Abyss Dweller, which sometimes comes in handy, your 101. So that's your rank 4s. Then for your level 7s, like I said, the way you make these is by using your gates. So number Big Eye, Dragosack, number 28 Titanic Moth, and Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Funny story, actually last night when I was outside talking on the phone, there was this huge moth that was on my window of my car. It was literally the size of 2 of my hands. I think that was a Titanic moth. I'm not joking. But yeah, biggest moth I've seen. I've seen one other one that big, but my gosh, it was kind of surprising. But yeah, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile. It's a very, very fun deck to play. But like I said, it's still in the testing phases. I do apologize that this video took a long time and I went into detail, but I'm trying to explain to you how it works. On paper, it may not look like it works, but once you play with the deck, you'll understand that it works very well, and it does function in Link format. But you just got to play with the deck maybe 5 or 6 times, understand the combos, and you should be good. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Go Time Lords, go 5Ds. I look forward to hopefully getting a Link monster that can help Synchrons out, or just going for Quasar in the future. But till next time, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and I'll see all of you guys later. Take care, everybody.